And this past week, presidential aspirants and relevant presidential candidates, and relevant political figures met to strategize ahead of the 2023 presidential election. But these meetings, with outcomes that could reverberate across Nigeria, were held thousands of miles away from the country in the United Kingdom. And now, an international coalition, the Nigerian Academy of International Affairs, has berated the decision of the venue of those meetings in a statement titled The London Show of Shame and signed by Nigeria's former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Professor Bolaji Akinyemi, and other notable former diplomats. The group criticizes the Nigerian political class for abandoning the country in search of what they call, quote, delusion solutions to Nigeria's problems. They call the politicians' actions revolting and unacceptable and indicative of having a neo-colonial mentality.
Well, we're now joined by Ambassador Joe Keshi, a former diplomat and a representative of the Nigerian Academy of International Affairs. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight tonight.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for a beautiful summary of the press release.
Absolutely. What exactly is wrong with these meetings by Nigerian politicians, governors, ex-governors, and the rest of them? What exactly do you have against it?
Everything you can think of. Just name it. It's wrong. And the timing in particular, and the insensitivity of some of them even posing where they were having breakfast and showing us the photograph in a very expensive hotel at a time in which the country is in such a situation that we all find ourselves. Some of the governors that went to this meeting have not paid salaries, they have not paid retirees, they are owing, you just name them. And they also are part of the problems of this country. This country is not working because the states are not working. And the states are not working because the local governments are not working. And the governors, with no exception, are responsible for all this. And yet, just for a meeting of their own political interests, they will all fly out. Manufacturers can't get forex for their businesses. It's a complete, not just a show of shame, but a very insensitive. It's a disregard to the feelings of Nigerians who are in very bad condition. Their children go abroad to school, they show the pictures. Very insensitive, as we on strike.
But some will say, perhaps it's the age of social media. These meetings and these ills you talk about are nothing new. They travel for Hajj, they have meetings, but they're talking over the phone across continents. It's nothing new.
Look, what did the meeting achieve? These are not international meetings. These are purely on local affairs. These are purely for their own self-interest, not national interest. They didn't go to look for investors. They are sick, they go for medical treatment. Our hospitals are down. Their children can't go to school. Even primary school, they send them abroad. We just felt that, look, enough is enough. They've disregarded Nigerians for so long. And Nigerians, too, have just adopted a splendid silence. As if nobody in this country cared to, we just felt that they've brought us low and that they've become very insensitive to the feelings of Nigerians, and that we needed to speak out, to let people know that, look, and let the politicians know that enough is enough. This country is not theirs alone. It belongs to 200 million people.
Well, the politicians could argue that the environmental noise, the ambience that they need. Let me just land on this, if you'll allow me, Mr. Ambassador, that the ambience that is needed to really address the critical issues of how to move Nigeria forward come 2023, and more importantly, how they can, get the reins of power and achieve this lofty goals and vision for Nigeria, would require, a neutral place to have these discussions.
Listen, there are so many places in this country you can hold such a meeting.
Right.
You can even come to one's house, hold a quiet meeting and leave. Nobody would know. Look, when you are in a serious negotiation, you don't get the press or the media involved. So many agreements have been reached without the public knowing, because it was just done in the quietness of somebody's home or somewhere, but not to leave the country the way it is, not to leave the states the way they are. And you all just keep jetting out and jetting in and telling us that you went to discuss our national affairs. Where? You are discussing your private interest. You are discussing your future relevance. You are discussing your desire for power. Not the people's interest.
But are there any implications at all to these meetings that they've been having?
If Nigerians know they are right, there should be implications. Not just for this meeting, because this is just gone too far. This is the height of it all. You know, yes, we are all part of the elite, and the elite is part of the problem of this country. But when those charged with looking after the people abandon the people's job. No, let me tell you. When I was in Atlanta, it was a week. It was a week to the travel of the governor that his staff realized that he has no passport to go to Israel. And then you say to you, and the first question, the whole staff was surprised that the governor has no passport to travel, and they were going to travel a week before then. But then the question is, why would the governor care? Everything in the world that he needed, it's right there in Georgia. So why would he bother himself?
Okay, in that press statement release, you also say these actions by the political class expose us to Western influence. How exactly is that so? Because some would say our natural resources, oil and gas, already expose us to Western influence.
You see, when your leaders behave like this, you make people just disrespect you. They laugh at you. They just look. I remember again when some time ago in the early part of this dispensation, an American told me in Washington, he said, the way your folks are flocking to Washington and talking of democracy, you would think they invented it. It's part of that official irresponsibility. I actually told a governor from one of these northern states when I was in Atlanta. I told him when he came and we had prepared a program, and he said he had other program. And I said, you know, Governor, it's also part of official irresponsibility that creates problem for Nigerians' image.
Right.
And that's exactly what you are saying.
And you also ascribe this meeting as a result of neo-colonial mentality. I remember the song Colo mentality.
What is? How? What is? Why would your people think that the most comfortable place to discuss what is simply their self-interest is in London or in Paris?
Or in Dubai.
Or in Dubai for that matter. When somebody could come, people come to my home, I go to others, we discuss some private things and nobody knows, the media doesn't even know. You can actually strike a deal, even in a football field. Some mafia bosses have struck a deal, even in public places. Not to talk of politicians who are very good. They meet at parties. I mean, you saw all the parties at everybody at Howard the other day.
It was a case of who wasn't there.
Precisely. Deals could be made there.
Right.
Okay, so local solutions should be discussed locally.
Absolutely, but you must have regard for the people. You must take into consideration the feelings of the people. Realize that people in this country, many of the people, I mean, almost everybody is not happy with the state of the nation.
Sure.
I saw the gentleman who was just talking about the student ASU strike.
Yeah.
And the proposal he made is what some of us have been discussing privately. Why not meet them halfway? Why not just say, okay, we pay you 3 months, and then the rest we can prorata them, and the problem is solved, they go back to school.
Okay, so my question, I'm not holding a sway for the governors that John Ketton, but some of them say, we need to speak to stakeholders across the board, including Nigerians in diaspora. And so we need to travel to meet the stakeholders. No, in such instance, can you excuse this travel? Look,
those who want to go out and campaign to the diaspora, I don't have a problem as long as they are spending their resources. But when you fly out and you begin to hold meetings, which all of us know has little or nothing to do with our national interest, but for your self-interest, your future relevance. We must all cry out against this kind of wasteful expenditure by, our leaders. That's what we are saying.
Are you making a case then for Nigeria's or development of Nigeria's tourist destinations, for example? I mean, there was once when the Obudu Cattle Ranch was a destination of, preference in Nigeria, and so many others. Are you making such argument? Because I'm wondering what alternatives, what options are you laying on the table?
If you have been to the houses of the state houses of some of these governors, they are good enough to hold private secret meetings, period. The meetings should have been held in this country. That leaders should show good example. And by the way, the current government told us that they would discourage medical tourism in 2015. But here it's everybody goes out for. So what are the poor people?
The vice president seems to have demonstrated a good example.
And some of the same characters somewhere criticize him that, look, let's just leave that one and focus on
Okay, thank you so much. We have to leave it at that. Ambassador Joe Keshi, former diplomat and representative of the Nigerian Academy of International Affairs. Thank you so much for being on the news.
Thank you both. Thank you for having me.